Our brain is like this most powerful computer, and it begins to try to solve the problem. Oh, well, yeah. Geez, Liz, how could I do that? How could I pay my bills on time? How could I earn $1 million? How could I buy my first investment property? Well, your brain starts to solution that problem. If you tell them that you can't, the brain doesn't even bother going to work to solve anything because you've already solved it for your brain. All right, you're tired of being broke, had enough of this. But in order to get out of this idea of I don't have enough money, or I'm not going to make it, or all these kind of negative things that we sometimes tell ourselves, we really got to isolate what are the things that broke people tell themselves that keep them broke. When you can identify these things, if you're concerned or this is you and you're just like trying to get ahead, you're trying to get to the next level, and you're tired of having all the bills to pay and all these other things, these obligations coming up. The only thing that can change that is change. You actually have to change something. You got to change how you're moving your money around. You got to change the things that you're telling your brain so that you can input some new data and start thinking differently. So we're going to cover today with my friend Liz, we're going to talk about what we think are the top 5 things that broke people are telling themselves that's keeping them that way. Now, I'm going to kick us off, Liz, if you're okay with that. You're good?
Please do. Please do.
Okay, great. So the first one I think is the most important is I can't. If you're telling yourself, I can't do it, I can't earn $1 million. I can't invest money in, whatever cryptocurrency or in real estate. I can't go buy an investment real estate, or, I can't get started with that. I can't save money. Geez, I can't even create an emergency fund. I can't pay my bills on time. The moment you start saying the words, I can't, what's happening is there's a powerful signal going into your brain right here that's telling your brain, you're right, you can't do that. And all of the other things and synapses start firing to position you in that place and keep you there. When you start using an I can mentality, what happens is when you say I can, or you start asking the question, how can I? What might I do differently? Our brain is like this most powerful computer, and it begins to try to solve the problem. Oh, well, yeah. Geez, Liz, how could I do that? How could I pay my bills on time? How could I earn $1 million? How could I buy my first investment property? Well, your brain starts to solution that problem. If you tell them that you can't, the brain doesn't even bother going to work to solve anything because you've already solved it for your brain. Does that make sense?
And it's just like if you bought let's say a bright pink car, you start seeing bright pink cars everywhere. Even before that, you thought you didn't see any, because our brain chooses to find things that we think are important. So if we think that, I can do something, it becomes important to our brain, we'll start looking for solutions.
Love that. And I love the car example because like anyone watching this, 100%, you can remember that last time you bought that vehicle. And it's so interesting because what you focus on expands, what your brain focuses on. And if your brain is focusing on the things that are going wrong in your life, guess what? There's a high probability more wrong things are going to show up in your life because that's all your brain can put into work. So I'm not saying it's easy. I'm not going to stand here and be like, oh yeah, it's everything's sunshine and rainbows. Everything's going to be okay. Just say I can. Like what I'm getting at is you have to actually start getting into your head. And it's kind of like developing a physical regimen for working out. Well, it starts by getting up and going to the gym or doing the exercise. You got to put your gym shorts or something on. Like you have to do an action step. Well, one of the first action steps to training your brain and developing the habit to have a positive, forward thinking, accomplished mindset is to tell it that. And, fake it till you make it. Once you begin building that habit, you'll start to see some really powerful things begin to develop in your life. I believe that's the case. I've certainly found it for me. And, I used to have a lot more negativity than I do now. That's because I'm around positive people. So we're going to talk about, one of the core reasons why people end up in this phase where they're not seeing the success they want in life. It's a lot of it has to do with who are you spending your time with. So number 2 on our list is you can't. So if you're saying I can't to you, what also tends to happen is we unintentionally, and we don't sound like we're doing this, as an underhanded thing, but it can happen where we sort of want to keep people where we're at a little bit. And so we like to tell other people that they can't. Oh yeah, you can't go buy investment real estate. Like there's too much risk. Oh, you can't go and invest in this. There's too much risk. Or, oh, You can't just go and do something outside of the RSP. Nobody else does that. So when you tell other people that they can't, what you're doing is you're sending a signal to the world and to all those other people that, boy, that's kind of negative, and that kind of sucks. I don't really like hearing that I can't do things. So I'm going to stop hanging out with that person. The end result is people don't want to be around you if you're telling them they can't do things. I don't want to be around any human being that tells me I can't do something. I cut that person out of my life. I'm sorry. You might be family. I love you. I'll see you at Christmas. Don't be around me and drag me down into your world. I'm only looking for people that lift you up. You think about whether you're involved in your church or you're involved in personal development or something, but when you're around people that lift you, they rise you up, everything in your life gets better. And so you become the top 5 people you spend your most time with. And if there's people that are dragging you down, think about the incomes of those individuals. If you average them all together, you're probably in a similar boat. So if you start hanging around with people that have a higher income, that they have more assets, they're doing more with their life, they have more joy, you're going to start to see all those things rise in your own life.
And I think that's a really important point, Richard, in terms of understanding that it's not only you telling people and being negative, but it's also what you're missing out on. So you're missing out on being open to new ideas, opportunities that might come your way just by the people that you're associated with, things that you might learn from them. And so sometimes we don't even see what we've missed because we weren't there to witness it. If we picked a different path, things would open up for us and we would have more opportunities. And then we would start to see, oh, maybe it's not as risky as I thought. Maybe there is possibility here. Maybe there is a different way to think about this. And then when our own thinking starts to shift, then we can start to see what our options may become.
It's like opening, it's like opening a doorway that wasn't there before. It just all of a sudden appears as like a secret door that you couldn't see, but then the light changed. And because the light reflected off the crack in the door, it's like, whoa, secret door over there. What's behind the door? Must be opportunity. Let's go check it out. And it's just like this whole world gets exploded to you. I'll tell you a quick story. So when I first, met my wife and, we were dating and so forth, I kind of, she's told the story a little bit, so I think it's okay. But we were driving around town.
It's all right. It's just you and me, Richard.
Just us. It's just us here. We were driving around town and we would see a construction fence. Anytime a construction fence went up, I would just like snap my fingers and I'd point at it and she'd be like, let me guess, opportunity. I'm like, yeah, somebody's making a deal, like that open field that was there, or that there was an old house there that's now being knocked down and built into something new. Someone is creating value and going to create profit. And they're taking a risk on something magical that's going to happen there. The moment you see a construction fence gone, I'm telling you, there was opportunity involved in that, and somebody saw it and they took an action. And nothing, otherwise, no construction fence would ever exist. You would never see them. You wouldn't even be able to buy construction fence. You know what I mean? So it's that kind of thinking that gets us in the right zone for prosperity, for abundance, for creation of something bigger and grander. Now, next one on the list is, I know everything. I don't bother telling me about that. I already know. No, I know that. Yeah, I know all about that. Do you know someone like that? Like you're watching this, and I bet you can think of at least 1 or 2 people in your life right now today that are just like that.
Yeah.
Liz, have you bumped into anyone like that recently?
I have.
What is it like when you bump into someone who knows everything? How do those conversations go?
They're pretty short. That's not much to say.
Not much to say. Oh, I guess if you know it all, I'll just go over here. Like, how about those Edmonton Oilers, or how about those Vancouver Canucks? See ya. Yeah, it's like, how quickly can we change the topic of conversation and exit stage left? So
and I think sometimes that comes from people not wanting to feel like that they don't know things. So it's not always that they necessarily believe that they know everything. Sometimes they just feel like that they wouldn't want to ask a question. So it's easier to say, oh yeah, I know all about that, rather than say, actually, I don't. I'd really love if you could tell me exactly how does that work. So there's 2 sides for that. So maybe that's something that you've experienced, is not feeling confident to ask a question, but that's how we learn. And in my experience with different people who have more experience, people have always been really generous with their time and knowledge, and actually delighted to share with me something that they've benefited from. Like, I have never had a bad reaction from that.
Oh, I'm so glad you pinpointed that. It's beautiful because you're right. We sometimes there's a reason. Maybe it's the environment that you're in or the group of people, and you don't necessarily feel safe to ask those questions. And so go someplace where you do feel safe to ask those
Mm.
questions and try it once. What's the worst case scenario if you try it once? Somebody doesn't help you out and you go ask another person, right? It's not that
Exactly.
complicated. But I'm glad
Yeah.
you put that. And I'm going to point to oh, that's super bright. The arrival
Oh,
syndrome. The arrival syndrome. Okay. This comes from page 34 of Becoming Your Own Banker, the developing the infinite banking concept. So the arrival syndrome is what Nelson talks about, is exactly this point. It's that there's no point in teaching me anything new. I've already arrived in knowledge. What Nelson says is that when this thing affects us, we stop growing, we stop learning, we rot. Essentially, we turn off or tune out the ability to receive inspiration because we already know all there is to know. You know, if you're watching this, you may recall a curious little monkey, Curious George. I love
oh,
that guy.
Curious George.
Curious George. When you think of Curious George, I mean, come on, how can you not get a smile on your face? He's always getting
Yeah.
into trouble. Well, it's because he wanted to learn things. He wanted to Curious George. So I always suggest to people, develop a mindset of Curious George,
Mm.
because that's how you learn quickly. That the more you get involved in things and the more you get tactile and ask questions, the quicker you can, this brain is such a powerful tool. The more information you feed it, it has to do some filtering. It may not retain everything, but the more you engage it, you'd be amazed at what you will retain. It's really quite astonishing.
Mm.
And especially if you like trivia, I mean, like, just think of how many ridiculous trivia things you like. How many movie quotes do you know? Like, you can retain a lot of information that's doesn't really help anybody, but it's still funny. Um, so the next one on our list is, that's too expensive, or that costs too much.
Yeah. And this is a really interesting mindset, because we're not talking about, owning your own private jet here, but it's about understanding that with a lot of things, people will say, oh, that costs too much, I'll never do that. So an example would be, Richard, I think you have a really good story about a course that you decided to spend some money on, and how that really, that was an investment in your future and really changed your life's direction. And so what is the price on that course? It's never going to cost too much, right?
Yeah, exactly. And this is a hard lesson for me. I would say the thing that was pushing me down and keeping me broke for a longer period of time than was necessary was probably this one item. Because I've always been a really good saver. I've always really kind of, you know, ground every penny and like that sort of thing. I really try to watch the dollars, and I used to be concerned about the cost of everything. And when I started to shift my mindset towards investment versus costs, and I could make a clear distinction between what is it that I get back for having this? What is the return for
Mm.
me on having this thing or this item or whatever? And sometimes that is relative to time. And the story I'm going to share is this. So I was involved, been involved in real estate for quite a number of years. Technically, I was involved in my first rental property when I was 12 years old, and learned everything you shouldn't do in real estate in that short period of time, which is great. But there's lots of good lessons there. Yay. The end result is that I got involved in a real estate networking group. Great organization, great group. And it was cost about $3,000 a year. And so I got involved in that group, and I was a member for many, many years. And then they would also put on extra programs, like they'd have an annual program. They'd have different, they could learn about multi-level family investing. You could learn about rehabbing properties. You could pay extra to do additional programs. And I did many of those. I still have many of the binders left to prove it. And I learned a lot in all those experiences. They all had a cost. And many times I thought, man, like that's a big ticket item. Like, where's the ROI on that and that sort of thing? I couldn't quite see it. But when I started to realize, here's the key takeaway I want to share, is that the relationships I built through that organization, the friendships that I made, and the connections that it led me to have vastly outweighed any dollar I paid for any single one of those programs, or actually for all of them combined. And I'll tell you exactly one specific one. It was actually through that network organization that led me to meet Jason Lowe, the founder of Ascendant Financial. And it was because of my introduction to Jason through mutual contacts that I got a copy of this book in my hands. This book that changed every fundamental aspect of my entire life, not just my financial life, my whole life, my relationships with people, with my family, with how I think about life, the future, longevity, all aspects. And so because of that, although did I get a direct ROI off the course itself? Yeah, sometimes I did, but ultimately what I got was a return on my investment through the relationships I created, because only people that were ready to grow, people that were interested in a bigger future, people that wanted success in their life, more profit, more abundance, attended those events, were willing to pay the $3,000 or $5,000 or $10,000 to show up in that meeting to learn those skills. And so you're automatically networking and being around people who have a mindset of growth, and they're looking for something. You have a similarity that it's originally there, and you could create relationships, and those relationships lead you to places that you never could expect and couldn't see. What a incredible journey. And I want to speak to this again. Another one, I pay for coaching, business coaching, and I'm a member of an incredible organization. It's called Strategic Coach. Shout out to Strategic Coach and Dan Sullivan. Absolutely incredible organization. I love it dearly, because when I look forward to paying my annual payment, my cost to the Strategic Coach organization, because it's an investment. It's an investment in me and my accountability, and it's investment in relationships at a super high level. And that program costs me, presently something in the area of, I don't know, $13,000 or $14,000 a year. But although it's a write-off for my business, the key thing is I get way more than that by the connections that I make in those meetings with the people, the collaborations that are possible, that'll vastly outweigh the cost of attending that program, because otherwise I wouldn't be able to meet those people, not in the same way. So what's the real cost?
And I think that, brings it back to a really important point, Richard, is that what we're talking about here in terms of mindset and in terms of wealth is more than just monetary wealth as well. It's like, how do you build a lifestyle and future that is something that you want, and that's going to be created by all these opportunities. And so it's very hard to see it when you're stuck in a certain situation, but if you take an action and do something like a course, or there's a lot of cheaper options to start off online. It's just starting somewhere, taking one step, learning about something, the connections that you make from that, you build into something else, you hear about something else, and then it just snowballs from there. So it's those small steps. It's not giant leaps. It's the small steps that are going to really make the difference to you and the choices that you have going forward.
Yeah, I love it. How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time.
That's right.
So, okay, let's close this bad boy out with our fifth and final thing that we think that helps keep people broke, and that's, it's too late for me.
We hear this quite a bit.
You were telling me a story about this earlier, Liz. I'd like to kind of hear just when you encounter this, walk me through it. And you even shared a little bit about your background in health and how it used to come to people and you would help them in their health. So kind of, I think that ties into, because our physical health has a direct connection to our financial health.
Yeah, I think, people often, in what I consider to be still quite young, in their 40s or 50s, will often say, oh, it's too late for me. I haven't made good choices up to this point. I don't know stuff. So back to our first one of I can't. And, it's too late for me to insert whatever here. Like, it's too late for me to build wealth. It's too late for me to learn about a new strategy. It's too late for me to, whatever it happens to be. I'm sure you probably heard someone say that to you, and maybe you've even thought it yourself, like, it's too late for me to do this. And, we have the privilege to work with people at many different ages, and the opportunity to show them that it's actually not too late, that there are many options, and it's just thinking a little differently about what they can do. And you have more time than you think, and people are living longer now, and certainly as you create something, the time's going to go by anyway, so why not be creating things that are actually going to make a difference for you? Because what is it that you want for yourself during passive income time? How do you want to create that? And you can actually start at any point and create something for yourself and potentially your family as well.
And another thing that happens, and I learned this actually, a lot of it through Strategic Coach, or at least I enhanced my learning on this, at least to my knowledge. And And that's thinking about the power of longevity. And so we have centurions being created all the time, and new people are crossing that 100 age milestone. And so with the advancements in medical technology, now those aren't going away. They're rapidly picking up in speed. So as we increase the speed of medical technology and what's available, and how we can start to reduce or slow disease or improve or cure these kinds of things and ailments, your ability to have a very, very long and fruitful life over an extended period of time is extremely high. And so if you are thinking about pulling the towel, like throwing the towel in at, say, age 82 or age 85 or age 90, what you're really doing is you're telling your brain today, that's when I'm ready to exit. I'm choosing my best before date. Well, last time I took a look in the mirror, and the back of my neck, there was no stamp on there that says, here's Richard, this is when you're good till. Okay. So what we want to challenge people to do is, again, this is about your mindset and about your thinking. And our mentor, Nelson Nash, he said that you know, if you find something you're passionate about, and if you recognize that you want to be of service to the world, then you find something that is of service and find a way to help create value for others, because that will produce income. Now, you can have money produce income, or you can have your effort produce income. It doesn't have to be a physical effort. There's lots of ways to do that. People make money online, all kinds of things these days. You can even rent like sporting equipment that you already own in your house to other people, like just like an Airbnb, as a way to create extra income. There's all kinds of things that you can do. The only thing that's stopping you from doing it is awareness and all these other mindsets that we talked about today. And so if you start thinking about your lifespan as living longer, consider what your life could be like if you could add another 25 years onto the back end of your life. And if you did that, how would you want those years to go? What would you like your health to be like? How would you like to see your health? Well, if you had to live an extra 25 years, what do you have to change today to create that outcome? And if your brain is thinking about the possibility of that, you're going to start changing some health requirements. Maybe you're going to eat different. Maybe you're going to jog more. And maybe you're going to change the way you think about protection of your money today, so that maybe you're not putting it all at risk to create that longevity outcome. So again, it's never too late. The only thing that makes it too late is the way that we think about things. Change the way you think, because Nelson Nash taught us that it's all about how you think.
Great summation.
This was a lot of fun. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Make sure to check out the next video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment below about which one of these top 5 things had the biggest impact to you.